So the question originally was, is it possible for Roman Catholics or Protestants to have salvation? And my answer to that question is, if we consider salvation the final state of a person, right? So that when the last judgment has been rendered, a person is either among the company of the just or among the company of the damned. Will there be Roman Catholics and Protestants there? Yeah, I think there will be. I think there will be lots of them there. How will they have gotten there? Well, by the grace of God, through Jesus Christ, as everyone has gotten there. How is Jesus Christ's grace given to them? Well, through the church, because Christ doesn't come in two parts. You have the whole Christ, head and body. And wherever the church is, Christ is. But also wherever Christ is, the church is. How is the church present to them? Well, the church is present sometimes in a defective capacity. So this is true for us, and this is an analogy. This isn't the same kind of defect, but this is true for us when we sin. So Christ is present in us and in our hearts. He dwells in us through faith and through the Eucharist. We are joined to his body. And insofar as Christ is indivisible, our whole self is contained in who Christ is. Our real selfhood is contained in who Christ is. And insofar as every human being instantiates the whole of human nature, the entire human family and the entire church is present in every member of the church. But there are certain aspects of our life in which the church's being the church, the body of Christ, is prevented from being expressed and realized. And let's say a person struggles intensely with sexual sin. A person's sexual life is not an aspect of themselves, if they struggle with this particular sin, in which the church is visibly manifest to others as the church. There are elements of that person's life in which the church is manifest as the church. The church is visibly realized according to the sanctity inherent in the life of Christ in certain aspects of their life. But even though they have the whole Christ is latent with respect to the cooperation of their will in those areas where they are rebelling against God with varying degrees of culpability. I would say the same thing with respect to those elements of ecclesiality, with respect to baptism outside the canonical boundaries of the church, with respect to apostolic succession outside the canonical boundaries of the church, that the Orthodox Church is the one church of Christ. It's not a part of the church. That there will be those who die outside the canonical boundaries of the Orthodox Church who are saved, probably a lot of them. I mean, the Emperor Trajan himself, according to certain traditions, inherits the world to come through the prayers of St. Gregory the Great. And as with anybody who is saved, they will be saved through the grace of Christ. So that to the degree that that grace was communicated and was operative through those elements of ecclesial reality, which are possessed by these separated bodies of Christians, to that degree, those degrees of ecclesiality actually remain instrumental for salvation in them. But salvation is more than something which happens to individuals. Salvation is something which reshapes and remolds the entirety of the human family. And it remolds them not just in that we have got a collection of holy people here, but we have a society which is made up of many nations and many societies whose mode of relating to each other has been fundamentally transformed. So when we consider the idea or the question of whether a particular error is significant, some people ask that question only with respect to a person inheriting or not inheriting the age to come. But there are other ways in which you could say a theological mistake is significant. You could say that theological mistake inhibits the development of a robust Christian consciousness at a national level or in a political realm, even if, for the time being, it doesn't seem to directly affect the spiritual life of individuals who are part of that body of Christians. But I think we should be skeptical of the degree to which we are able to trace the causes of widespread social ills. And what I mean by that is, you see in your own personal life that you do not always respond to events in the way that you expected to respond to events. You don't always grieve the way that you expected to grieve. There are things in yourself that you do not know exist, and you do not understand why they exist. You don't understand why you're inclined to this particular good thing or this particular bad thing. We're told by Christ and by the church that the whole faith is an active part of our glorification and remolding in his image. I do not think we should have to give an explicit and well-developed argument for why, let's say, the filioque is spiritually significant for somebody in order to have, with warrant, epistemically, the belief that it is significant in one way or another, whether personal salvation, whether the development of a corporate Christian consciousness, or whatever. So that's my answer to your question.